Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you are new, thank you so much for joining us, and if you've been here before, I am very glad that you came back. Before we get into it, please click the subscribe button. Please, it is the red button somewhere down there, and it is free. It supports my channel. No, it will not lead to some sort of spam situation, or it's totally just click and that's it. So please. Oh, and also if you'd like to know every single time I have a new video, click the notification bell down there, little bell icon, and yeah, let's get into it. So over the years, I have continuously received questions from you guys about just taking care of your hair, and for the longest time it's been clear to me that one of the main issues you guys are facing is just not knowing your hair. You don't know your hair, you specifically, like you one person, not hair in general, but you don't know your hair. Let me tell you something, sis, bruh, there is just no way for your hair to thrive if you do not know it, you do not understand it, because when you understand it, then you can know what it needs, you know how to handle it, etc. I am going to try and give you guys the basics in a way that is summarized and that hopefully points out the most important things. Hair typing, but like especially now that I'm on Twitter, I've often gotten like questions about, you know, what does it mean for me to be 4C, 4A, all of that, how does it help, the whole 4A, 4C, you know, that typing system is fine, it's fine, but it is not comprehensive, okay? It only looks at the pattern of your curls or coils, period. It does not get into so many other important characteristics that your hair has, okay? So, curl pattern, okay? I'm going to insert a chart here so that you guys see what this curl pattern typing system is all about. From 1 to 3, it makes a lot more sense. Like the straighter patterns of hair fall a lot more easily into those groups. But when you get to 4, it gets a little bit complicated. It gets a little bit complicated because, for one, people of African descent are one of the most diverse groups of people in the world, period. We just come in so many different everythings, okay? We're just so diverse. So our hair is like that as well. So it's impossible to put us in boxes of like me just 4A, just 4B, just 4C. Now, it is a spectrum. So 4A to 4C is more of a spectrum than it is, you know, very specific categories. You'll find that a lot of us maybe fall in between this and that. And then some people are actually on the extreme end of, you know, 4A or 4C. And what you need to figure out is around where do I fall? I, for example, have 4C here for the most part, but I actually have a little 4B in the front, and I know so many of you have noticed that, you know, you have different patterns. So for all of us that fall in the type 4 category, our hair type is complex and it's, you know, diverse, you know, even on one head it's just all mixed up and it can change. So this is the simple explanation. Some bonds in our hair are weaker than others and can detach when they come in contact with things like heat or water. That's why when your hair is wet, your curls tend to look looser and more defined. So it's for that reason that you never want to let your hair air dry in an afro, because when you let it do that, essentially the bonds will just reattach to the closest position, as in they'll just go anywhere. And what does that result in? You know, tangling. Lots and lots of endless, complex tangles in your hair that take hours to get through, that inevitably cause breakage, that just make your whole hair hair situation a nightmare. And so as opposed to letting your hair dry in an afro, you need to let it dry in a mold. Now, what does that mean? Let your hair dry in twists. Let your hair dry in some type of color. There's spoolies, there's flexi rods, there's palm rods. Let your hair dry in some sort of set mold. It's like you're giving your hair direction on how it should set. So when you let it dry in an afro, just kind of all tangling, it sets that way, and you have to put in so much more work, so much more time, so much more product, so much more just energy into getting it to detangle. Now, I mentioned that curl pattern can change, and what do I mean by that? So that can be either temporary or permanent. When relaxer comes into contact with your hair, without getting too much into the science, it breaks down certain bonds and permanently morphs the structure of your hair. It breaks down all those curls and makes them straight, and there is no way to reverse that effect. It's the same thing for excess heat. If you apply excess heat to your hair, it compromises the structure of your hair and causes it to change pattern, and then to become either looser, sometimes even gets all the way completely straight, and it is permanent. There's no way to reverse that. But there are also temporary ways. That's the simple things, you know, like twist outs. Okay, that's just organizing. So, or using, again, the different curl forming methods that I talked about earlier, even wash and goes. I mean, all those are ways to change the way your pattern appears, but only for a bit, because it can revert. And that is that on curl patterns. It is great to know generally where you lie in the 4A to 4C spectrum, because I mean, it helps you just know also where to get some of your information. It has helped me be able to identify people with similar patterns and know, for example, how to detangle my hair, because the way 4A's detangle is quite different from the way a 4C is going to do. The thing we are going to talk about that is relevant to hair typing is thickness. When we refer to thickness of hair, we are talking about individual strands, right? How thick is your individual strand, right? Because different people's strands, they vary. It is a spectrum, okay? There's no boxes. You'll find that some people generally are closer to the fine end, and some people are closer to the thick end, and some people are more somewhere in between. I'm going to show you a simple test called the thread test that will give you an idea of where you lie on that spectrum. Regular sewing thread, I take that and split it into half, because no one's hair is as thick as the full thing. Then I place that next to a strand of my hair. As you can see, they're almost the same, so my hair is more on the thicker side. If yours is a lot thinner, then it probably falls on the other end. It's important for you guys to know that if your hair lies more on the finer side of the spectrum, it does not mean that your hair is unhealthy. It does not. Thickness is greatly determined by our genetics. Thickness is also greatly tied to the way you eat, you know, your lifestyle. Do you exercise? Okay, the third thing is density. Yes, density and thickness are actually two different things. Now, density has more to do with how many strands of hair you have on your head. That's what it means. Some people have more than others. But again, it's a spectrum. Density, like these other factors, is greatly determined by your genetics. Having sparse hair is not necessarily an indicator of a lack of health. So, observation. You need to observe your hair and know what it's like in its normal state. You need to be able to see your hair and know, this is what my hair looks like when it's at full health. So that if it's anything less than that, you can know, oh, I need to act. So the way to know where you lie on the spectrum is really just observational. There's no specific test for this. You can, for example, look at your twists. When your hair is in mini twists, does it look more scalpy? Does it look more, you know, there's those people who just look like there's barely any space in there. So it's really just an observational thing. But there are some things that we do that cause our hair to become sparse. Okay, if you are doing very high manipulation hairstyles that just exert a lot of tension on your hair, those things can actually kill follicles. I'll try and insert some pictures because there are people who have experienced permanent hair loss because of tension. Over time, you kill your hair follicles, and there are certain types of medication that can cause your hair to become more sparse. Stress really does cause hair loss. Your levels of stress have a great connection to the way your hair is going to look and the way it's going to behave. I talk a lot about that as well in my hair growth series. I give just like a more in-depth explanation of all of that, so I'll leave a link up here somewhere. I'll leave a card so you guys can check that out. And also chemicals. I mean, if you're using very harsh things on your hair, that can cause it to become less. It's important to know that for people that have dense and thick hair are going to have the strongest hair. It's going to be the hair that is less susceptible to setbacks because it's stronger. And if your hair is more on the finer, sparser side, it's going to be more delicate. It's going to require more just care. If your hair is on the weaker side of things, you definitely want to look into strengthening treatments, of which there are quite a number of options. Rice water is a wonderful strengthening treatment because it has protein content. Henna is fantastic. Particularly, sometimes people ask me, you know, how can I make my hair thicker? And henna, there's a way that henna coats your hair and gives it the appearance of thickness. So that coating not only gives it the appearance of thickness but also strengthens it. So henna is a wonderful treatment to look into if you are on the weaker side. Always remember that there has to be a balance. If you pour protein into your hair and ignore moisture, you're going to have a situation where you make your hair brittle. So yeah, that is the summary, you guys. And if you still have questions on hair typing, and we are not just talking about curl pattern but hair typing as a whole, curl pattern, density and thickness, leave them below. I am going to recommend a really great video. Actually, I believe it's a series on hair typing by Green Beauty. She is the natural hair science goddess on this YouTube, and she actually designed her own complete hair typing system that even goes beyond what these three things that I've told you guys. So if you would like to learn more about that, I'm going to leave a card to I think to the first video in that series that gets into hair typing. It's really informative, and it's just one of the things that has helped me figure out my own hair. So I hope that it can help you out as well, so check it out. And thank you so much for watching. Do let me know if this was helpful and if you would like to see more content that really focuses on how to help you get in there, the details. Thanks again for watching. Bye.